Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mark back in the workshop on Mark's Aquatics. Right, on this little episode we are going to be transferring some fish to this tank. Now, those little dwarf neon rainbows that we bred a while back here in the workshop that all you guys saw hatch out, now they've all been busy. I've been feeding them heavily on the infusoria and I've been putting in the micro worms for the last couple of days, and they've got to a kind of stage now where they're strong enough for me to carefully get them out in a very fine net and put them into this tank. Okay, I want to put them in here because I want to use the other tank for something else, and they're of a size now where I can move them, and so that's what I plan to do. Now, there's going to be loads of life in this tank as well. I've turned this tank into, it is kind of a cold tank. I mean, you can see some of the different coloured shrimp in there, which, as you know, if you keep them in there, they end up going green. You mix those reds and those yellows together and you get those greeny colours coming out, and then they will revert back to the wild coloration again. But I'm not too fussed about that. I just like a really busy little tank, and this one is grown in beautiful. We've got all those big swords at the back there, and we've got that lovely Monte Carlo there, which is carpeted the bottom. If you can remember, I put in with the old tongs there, I was poking in those little bits of that root all over the place when I set this one up, and it's now completely covered it, and it needs a lovely trim. There's no CO2 in this tank whatsoever, for those of you guys who want to know these things. Okay, all there is in there, I've just got one little sponge filter going up, pumping through a little power head, through a little spray bar there, which is just under the water. You can see some of the plants just waving around very slow. So I've got a very low flow in there, okay, which is what we want for bringing on a fry tank. There's nothing else in there apart from the shrimps, which are very busy at the moment because I've come in the workshop and they're after some food. So I think what I'll do is I won't disappoint them. I'll chuck in a couple of bits of food, some of my homemade food, which I've still got. Look at that, I've still got some of that left. All my videos are online, guys, if you want to see how that's made. Some of them will float, some of them might sink, or they all might float. You've just got to let them get a bit of water in, and they will slowly sink away. There you go, there goes a nice big piece. And I've got all sorts in there, which is great for the shrimp. As you'll see, in no time at all, they'll be onto that when they hunt it out. If you look there, you see carefully there is one of those little green ones with a yellow stripe across its back. And that one there is one that's gone a little bit greeny with a yellow stripe down his back. That's what they do. In the second generation, that's what tends to happen with the shrimp. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you guys, in fact what I'll do is I'm going to leave you to watch these guys for a minute while I get these baby rainbow fish out, and you'll see them all congregate there on that food. There's one there actually hanging off a piece of food which is slowly sinking there, and just the weight of him is slowly dragging it down. In fact, it's negative buoyancy now. Look, he's just hovering there eating it. No, he's floating up with it again. There he goes. It's great stuff as it fills up with water. It's going down again now. As those little micro bubbles come out, there he is, he's off of it, and it's gone back to the surface. They'll find it again. They're all over the surface now, racing around trying to find out where it is. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these babies out now, and I'm going to start very carefully putting them in this tank after I've acclimated them. Okay, so I've got my little jug there, and I'm going to take out a jug full of the water from the tank that they're in. Okay, and then I'll very carefully net them out, and then I will acclimate them here with a little drip line into there before we put them in. Okay, we've got quite a few in there, and they're going to come on in leaps and bounds in there because there's tons of microlife algae on the side of the tank, which I tend to see. If you see on the sides there, I leave it nice and green because I like the shrimp to graze on that. I just keep the front bit, that panel, the viewing panel, clear of any algae, but I leave the rest of them have a chew on that. It's all good for them. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to hit pause, get these guys out. I'm going to acclimate them into this, and then we'll slowly pour them in, and then we'll get some nice close-up shots in this tank, okay, if they don't hide straight away. Right, okay guys, I've got them in my little jug here. You can see them whizzing about in there. Got quite a few, and a large daphne here as well, which you can see on the left hand side, scooting around and around in circles, going mad. He'll go in there and also feed on the micro life and different things and algae and things in there, and you will get some babies and they'll eat those as well. So they're all in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little drip line in there now and sort that out. Right guys, what I tend to do, if you've seen before, I put an air stone on the end. Now if you're dealing with fry going in or out, or anything where there's anything small, I always put an air stone on the end, because that will obviously suck just water through and leave nothing else. Everything else that should be in the tank will be in there. So your air stone there, I've just got that round the top there. Tie a simple knot in the end like that, okay, so that you can adjust backwards and forwards and then you just give it a suck through, and then you'll see that starting to come down, and then you can create a little bit of a drip. Once we get that air line running properly, I'm just going to get my bucket there. And slowly you'll see that coming through. It's a very, very slow drip. You'll slowly see those bubbles moving through. And with the bigger air stones, I find they've got a greater surface area, so sometimes you don't even have to tie a knot in the end. Other times you do. There you go, that's racing through there now. Now just lift it back above the air stone. Put your knot in it. And then when you go below, you can get your drip rate just how you want it. And obviously fish are not as fiddly. I'm just going to go down a bit there, and you can see that. There you go, I've got a couple of drips a second there, maybe 2 or 3 drips a second, and I'm just going to let that mix through now, and I'm going to fill that now with it's half near enough, and I'm going to fill that again to the top, okay? So when you guys come back, it'll be full up, and then what we can do is we can pour all that water which is in here then back into the tank with the little guys in it, so we don't want to be netting them twice in case we damage their tiny little fins, because they're so delicate at this size. But with a very fine net, and I'll show you, that's the one I use, very, very fine, very soft mesh, micro mesh on there, and you just literally take them out, turn it upside down, and then just put that in the water and let the water suck it back that way, and then just shake them and then they'll come out. Okay, don't start trying to get them out with your fingers or anything, because you'll kill them instantly because they're so small. There are little shrimps on that air stone already having a little pick around on there. Look, exploring away. That's one thing I love about shrimp, they're so inquisitive and they're over everything as soon as you put it in there. You can see that drip rate is keeping a nice steady drip. So I'll get back to you guys when all these little fellas are all acclimatized and they can go in their new home, and I can get some nice close-up footage for you because it's super clear in there, and with that green background it's going to make their little bodies stand out against it nicely. So I'll get back to you when they're all ready. Right, that should do it. We're about ½ an inch away, and that will do. So I've done that knot up nice and tight now, and you just lift the old line up and let that water go back down through the air stone. Lift that light out of the way. Remove shrimp from air stone. Right, put that to one side. Right, so now what we've got is all our little fry, all acclimated nicely to this tank. Now, I never pour things in, okay? Not when you're dealing with fry. Make sure you can get a little tub like this, okay, that you can literally put in the water. And here's another little trick when you're doing water changes as well. If you don't want to mess up your sand or, you know, displace anything, messing things around, uprooting freshly done plants, what I tend to do, okay, is the water you've taken out was obviously drop the water level in the tank. So what I tend to do is I will put that in there, making sure obviously it's very clean. Put the base in there first. You'll see the base going in with all the little fry in. Now you just carefully invert that until that water goes in, and it'll self equalize, and then you just keep dropping it in, okay, the other way. And as you notice, nothing's moving because you've equalized that pressure. Now what you do is you reverse that now, you bring the back out, and here comes the little fry. And they will just literally swim out without being poured out. And then you just lift it up and they'll all just drift out nicely, okay? I've got a few little bits of duckweed on the bottom of there, which I'll just remove. And that is a very, very easy way to put plants in. Put your fish in, and it just literally mixes it as it goes in. It's a very easy way to do it. As you can see, there's minimal disturbance there now. And as you can see, those shrimp are all over my little bit of shrimp food at the bottom there already. Now what I'm going to do is I've got to move my tripod and stuff, come out the tripod now, and we'll get in closer. I'll let it settle for about 10 minutes first, I think, and then well, I'll just try and get a couple of little close-ups there, but I'm going to have to let these little guys swim through and become in focus. The camera will find them, hopefully, and they'll come into focus. There you go, baby rainbow fish. What I'm going to do is now, I'm just going to put in some micro worms, okay? Let's see if they come and eat these. Very, very hard footage to get. That's a little bit better footage for you. Grabbing micro worms. Yep, he's got one. They're just to that size now where they're starting to take them. Magic stuff. Okay guys, there you go. We've got them in. Probably going to be easier if I actually come back here, because then it's going to focus on the whole tank. They're still very, very small, but as you can see, there's some of them up the front there, 5 or 6. Well, I think we've maybe got 20, 25 in total, all swimming around on the surface there as well. Quite a few. Very, very tiny still though. But they're in their new home and they're going to love it in there. Zipping around. And having a really nice time. All that micro life in there. They're going to be picking away at that. Putting on some size. Because you've got all these little bits of plant which are going to be breaking down, rotting down. The infusoria is going to be in there, eating that away as well. Any of the bacterial blooms, anything in the bacteria, there'll be millions of little tiny infusoria all over the top of the rocks, all on the side of that glass, in amongst all this Monte Carlo, and they're going to be quite happily picking that away. And we've got a nice little shoal in there now, which is fantastic, so it'll be nice to see them grow up. I'll show you these shrimp now down here, and I can show you what I mean about that colour variation. You can see, if you look in amongst them there, you can see some there which are quite yellowy colour. There's one right down in the back there, behind that, hiding behind that suswasatang there. He might come out. But the best ones I put back into my colonies, and these are the ones that I rather keep out and not breed back in. I know some of them look pretty good. Some of them have actually molted out and they're a bit more colourful now, to be honest. Some of those cherries. A couple of Bloody Marys mixed in amongst them as well. These little guys tend to be coming out a little bit more now. Quite a few of them coming out now, see? Up on the surface there. Look at that, our little gang of rainbows. Little dwarf gang of rainbow neons. Beautiful stuff. I'm happy with those little chaps. But like I said, that Monte Carlo is doing extremely well. No CO2, nothing in there. I just use Ferropol, the 7-day one, like in that JBL giveaway, and the Ferropol 24, which is every day. I just put a couple of drops in, or one drop of that in, I think, in this tank. It's one drop per 50 litres, so that keeps it stunning. Beautiful green, little IKEA light above the top there. That's my little IKEA light there. Keeps everything spot on. Very cheap. And you get a lovely little aquarium out of that. Look at that. And that was just from odds and ends. So if you see any bits in your shop, just because you think the plants don't look very good, ask them for a discount and say, look, can I have that plant there cheap? Because it doesn't look as good. Because that root system is going to be pretty good still. And just by putting a couple of little roots in there, and it looked pretty tatty, we've got a beautiful carpet of Monte Carlo now. And you can see it, the way it puts those little roots down, runs along the bottom. And all you got to do now is just run your scissors across the top like that, minding your little shrimp's legs, and cut it back. And the bits that float to the top you can replant in bare areas, or give it to a friend to plant in their tank, or start a new colony of it off in another tank somewhere else in your room of fish tanks, if you're anything like me. Anyway, they look quite nice up there. Look at that. There's one of those green ones. Look at that, right on the top, that light green tinge over the back. Now, one thing I will say, guys, with your tanks, if you're going to do this and you're going to put fry in a tank, make sure, you drop my phone there, you get a sponge filter on there, okay, a really fine sponge filter, because those babies will be sucked straight into a canister filter and you'll lose them, okay? They'll be killed straight away. So make sure, super important, sponge filter on the end. If you've got a canister filter, that's fine, but take that little grill thing off the end, okay, the thing with all the slits in, take that off the end. So you've just got the tube, and slide one of these sponge cartridges over. Actually, I've just got one here now. Right, that's the guys I mean. One of those, okay, and that will just got the hole in the end. Make sure you block it up at the bottom, okay, as well, with a piece of foam. And to do that, what I've done in the past is I've just taken a piece off the side there and shoved it in the hole, if you haven't got another piece, and then turn that little bite that you've taken out to the back, okay, and then put your tube straight in there like that, and that lift tube, and suck it up, and it'll act obviously as a filter as well, which you can take off periodically, stop the pump, squeeze it out, clean it, pop it back on. And what I tend to do sometimes as well is super glue the sucker on the end, so you can just bung it inside the tank. And that's gone a bit hard, that one, so it's not sticking to the tank, but oh, there you go. And you can stick it to the tank, then it just supports it. If your pipes are waving around slightly, you can just do that, and that stops things from moving around. So make sure you do that. But I'll have one last look at that little Daphnia. There he is. That's the little guy that was in there, little female there. So you can see the eggs in her back, a little rucksack full of eggs to let go in the tank, and all the babies that come out, these guys are going to eat. Now, it's fantastic when you've just got a shrimp tank like this, okay, and you put fry in, because obviously these are too small to predate on any of the shrimp babies yet, and they will be for weeks and weeks until they get to a certain size, which then you can rehome them, take them out. But it's nice to bring up baby fish in shrimp tanks because of the obviously there's nothing in there to predate on them, and because there's no other fish in there, or has been fish in there, it's always a great place for fry to find food, because the shrimp can't get the free swimming little infusoria and different micro life which is in the tank. They tend to just graze on that biofilm and live on that kind of stuff, and the food obviously that you're putting in there for them to eat. So it's a good little place to bring up fry if you want to start breeding. Stick them in your tank with your shrimps. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked that little video of me transferring these guys over. As always, you're all stars. Love you loads. Thanks for all your entries into the JBL contest. on yesterday's little video. Great little prize there for someone. Sorry, it could only be for the UK only. I know a few of you have whacked the old thumbs down on it, but you know, it must be a bit disappointing. I know a lot of you are subscribed from overseas in different places, but there'll be more competitions coming up, guys, and you can all be, as always, this is the first competition that I've done where it's only UK only, okay, and that's due to the weight and the contents of the packages, okay. So but there'll be other things available shortly, no doubt. I'm working with a couple of other companies as well, and they're thinking about putting some prizes up for you guys as well. Anyway, you're all stars, love you loads, take care. From me, the shrimps, and those baby little dwarf neon rainbow fish, look after yourselves, and I'll see you on the next episode of Mark's Aquatics. Bye for now.
Just me and my guitar.